Welcome back to Common Sense Rhode Island. I'm Representative Patricia Morgan, and we have with us today retired Lieutenant General, Adjutant General of Rhode Island Emeritus, Reggie Centracchio. Reggie, before the break we were talking about some of the acts of terrorism that have taken place here in the United States. So obviously the one that sears everybody's memory is the Twin Towers. Mm-hmm. There were 2 attacks there, right? Yeah. But more recently we've had Orlando, we've had San Bernardino. These are hurtful. They make everybody nervous about going out, right? Going out to, now it's a July 4th celebration because of the terrorist attack in France. But I mean, I'm hoping you're privy to some of the things that they are doing at the national level to keep us safe. What kinds of things is our government doing? Let's put the people's mind at ease that they can go out and enjoy themselves.
Well, I think it's necessary to understand that, there is a national effort, an international effort to be able to share information with the several states as well as the countries. So when they get information that comes into the country, they determine whether in fact it's credible, whether it's actionable, or whether it's not. And say, well, that's not that considerate, we don't need to consider that as being.
So you're talking about the chatter that they're talking about?
Well, not necessarily. The chatter means that there's something about to happen. They interpret that to mean there's a lot of activity going on. And as much as the last time we had this, there was no chatter, and we had a significant incident. But it depends on the particular incident that we're talking about. If it has to do with someone that is mimicking something or a lone wolf, you won't see that chatter. If it's being sponsored by, say, a terrorist country, and such as, I think that's another thing to understand. We're not at war with a particular country, as we have been since the war started. We're at war with a ideology, and that ideology from time to time takes on a different face. Mm-hmm. It can either be international terrorism, which is sponsored by groups such as Al-Qaeda, ISIS, the Taliban, all those kinds of organizations. And incidentally, I think it's necessary to understand too that Al-Qaeda, the meaning of it, I mean, we started to hear that word several years ago. Al-Qaeda means network. That's the meaning of it, a base. And all the organizations that belong to that are part of Al-Qaeda. Now you have the Taliban. The Taliban is nothing more than an interpretation of Talib, which is a student of Islam. Taliban is a plural of Talib. So you have the Taliban, which is an organization that professes and teaches and obviously promulgates the belief in Islam.
A certain sect.
And now ISIS, however, is a radical splinter of Al-Qaeda in Iraq. And that has become to be perhaps the most violent of all of the organizations out there.
And they've been very, very effective in spreading their message. They use, what, Facebook? I mean, what are they using?
You're right on. That's an excellent point. Back in the 40s and 50s, when I was growing up, there was no such thing as a cell phone. In fact, we had a party line. That was probably more significant.
I had a party line too. Yes.
And so when you got information, you would share it with other people through the party line.
Sure.
And then
you had to write letters. Right. You had to, do things in hard. Now they do it electronically.
You had to talk to people like you and I are talking to each other. Today, the biggest threat to our ability to maintain good security is the social media that's available, ranging from Twitter to Facebook, FaceTime, and all the other social capabilities. In fact, when we leave here tonight, I would invite you and all our guests to just take advantage of, take a look out there. When kids are together today, each of them have a device. Mm-hmm. And they're not talking to someone, they're talking to each other. But they don't look at each other and they don't have a conversation. Yeah. So this social media, what they're having is also going to a bunch of other people. So the recruitment tool that's being used today, which is most effective by ISIS, is in fact social media. And people become radicalized through that.
So no more Mission Impossible, you get a disc in a covert.
And you burn it. No,
and it fizzles.
It doesn't go poof anymore.
No, it doesn't go poof anymore. It's on the internet.
Right, exactly. Once you push the send button, it's out there forever. You can't retract it, you can't unring the bell. And people really need to understand that if you're part of this particular area, you need to be aware that when you do something or say something, It's not only within that small realm of what you're holding in your hand, it goes across the entire world. And that's exactly the main tool that ISIS is using now to recruit young kids, because they're still vulnerable. They're thinking about belonging to something. They don't know exactly what. And this sounds good to them. They become radicalized.
You know, I'll be honest with you, I have a Facebook page, right, because I'm a politician. And I am amazed at how many people from the Middle East want me to friend them. I don't, because they're not my constituents, quite frankly. But I'm amazed at it. And I imagine that everybody then who has a Facebook page gets those same requests to friend them so that they can talk back and forth.
And I'll tell you,
some of the more vulnerable ones then begin conversations.
Yeah, initially you said you didn't know a lot about terrorism, but you're hitting all the right points.
Yeah.
You know, that's exactly what the problem, one of the problems is. If you see something and you know you don't recognize the individual, the best thing you can do is just disregard it.
Yeah.
If you friend them, then the next thing you can unfriend them, but maybe that's already too late because they've already got your information.
Yeah, but they're posting things on your page maybe then, and
then you look like you're part of it without you necessarily endorsing it or understanding what they're saying, but you're already part of that whole social media
or maybe
thing.
then people who feel they have a grievance, whatever it is, start listening to whatever is sent them.
And it sounds
right?
good, and it sounds good. And people today use, not all people, but those that use violence, use a long-term solution to a very short-term problem, and that ends in someone losing their life. That's certainly not a solution to most grievances.
It's not a good solution, no.
No.
So have you ever looked at any of these, like, pages that they send to, I mean, is it a back and forth where you start talking back and forth, or you just read what they have to say?
If I don't recognize it, I don't enter it.
You don't, but I mean, in your position as a adjutant.
When I was the adjutant general, certainly we had briefings about what was going on in the countries that we were deploying troops to. You had to be absolutely certain that the society was really different than what we're used to here in the United States. So you had to become acclimated to make sure that you don't become a problem all by yourself going into that society. Such as you go into Iraq, there are particular laws and rules there that you must comply with. And therein lies part of the problem. People come to this country and they don't care what you are. They do their own thing anyway. And I think we still have enough respect for other countries that when we are there at their invitation to help them, we also comply with what they believe.
Yeah, you know, I've actually, I've gone to Jordan a couple of times. I've been to Turkey. So I have been there. And you're right, every Muslim person that I've met has just been the most genuine, friendly, open person, helpful, no problems. They're just like you and me. But I do respect their customs as much as I can, right?
That's exactly right. And if they understand that, that's a good forwarding step to be able to solve this problem. And that's educating everybody as to what we should be respecting each other's beliefs.
Yeah, but it is scary, the whole Facebook thing. And when we come back, we're going to start talking about what we're doing here in Rhode Island to keep people safe, but also what parents can do, what individuals can do to keep themselves safe. So we'll be right back.
Okay.
All right.